living there, so he knocked on the door. This beautiful, young lady opened the door. He was off his horse already, so he didn't fall off. he was stumbling a little when he saw such attractive beauty. So immediately he lost all composure, and he actually proposed marriage to the girl. Now she was simple, she was chaste, and she was actually somewhat religious. So she was thinking, well, he's the prince, but I'm not really interested. But what can I do? So she tried, in a very nice and ladylike way, to push him off. But he was persistent. So she made a plan. She said, well, you come back in a week, and I'll be ready. So he was really excited. He jumped back on his high-powered horse and rode away. And he was counting these seconds. How many? There's 168 hours in a week. Right? So how many seconds is that? Who's good at mathematics? That's not important anymore. When he was like, every second was like a year. So when you wait, time goes slow. So finally, the week ended. It was the longest week of his life. But he rode back. In the meantime, what she did, she decided to teach him a lesson. So she took all these purgatives and laxatives, and she just emaciated her body, and she was just, everything was coming out, both sides. And she collected it in buckets, and she kept it in another room in the house. Very nice. So he came, and he knocked on the door, and she opened the door, and he said, where is that young lady that was here when I came last week? She said, it's me. He said, no, don't joke with me. Where is the young lady? I know you may be her maidservant, but where is the young lady? Oh, it's actually me. Don't you recognize me? Oh, it can't be you. You're not the same person. She said, you really are so attached to my beauty, so I actually saved it for you. So come and get your, desired goal. So she took him to the back room and showed him all these wonderful buckets. And he got the message. He didn't need any explanation beyond that. So Prabhupada talks about that actually truth is actually beautiful, but real, but what goes on as truth is not necessarily beautiful. So this material world appears to act in a certain way, according to the sense perception of the conditioned souls, but it's actually a lot different than what we see. So the senses are always imperfect, the senses are always limited. So we have to take knowledge from what we say, the bona fide authority. Therefore, we can accept the acharyas, whatever they say, in terms of what is the absolute truth. It's like Prabhupada actually asked the devotees one time, maybe Jayadvaita Maharaj was here for that. Prabhupada said, do you actually believe Krishna is God? Remember that one, Maharaj? He challenged the devotees. Do you actually believe that Krishna is God? And he said, well, yes, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, why? How do you know? He said, well, because you said it. Because he's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. He's a speaker of the Bhagavad Gita. So the devotees gave various reasons. Prabhupada was actually testing their faith just to see how much they were convinced of the idea that Krishna was actually the Supreme Person, the original Supreme Personality of God. So knowledge comes by way of, how we say, authority, like that. And the scientist, what goes on as authority in this world, there's no authority because the authority is always changing and the knowledge they use as authoritative is always changing, so there's really no authority. But here is something stable, here is something, what we say, transcendental, because it is coming from the bona fide sources. Prabhupada wants to make this point very clear, and that we have to accept knowledge from. Just like Arjuna, when he wanted to glorify Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he glorified his qualities in so many ways, and then he said, actually, you're saying you're the Lord. Deva, Sita, Vyas, Narada, they're all saved. All the great sages saved. So here, not only am I saying you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but all the great sages and saints also are confirming that. So knowledge comes by way of three authorities. Guru, the pure devotee spiritual master, the acharyas, the pure devotees who have spoken and come in disciplic succession and have lived according to Shastra and Shastra, Guru, Sadhguru, Shastra. So therefore we can accept whatever Srimad Bhagavatam says, we can ever accept what Srila Prabhupada says, because they are part of that triangle of truth. So therefore, anything the scientists say, you always take what we say with not a grain of salt, but with a pound of salt. Grain means there's some consideration that maybe it's right, but because the senses are always imperfect, and people are, what we say, overcome with 4 defects: imperfect senses, illusion, makes mistakes, and cheating. What is it? The senses are imperfect, therefore you become illusioned. And when you're illusioned, you make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you try to cover up, and that's called cheating. So that's the progression. So that is the conditioned soul. So therefore we have to take knowledge from the authority. Okay. Any questions? Comments? Yes?
Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful enlightening class. We noticed that Prabhupada always said things as they were, as the Buddha said, but we see...
We have microphones so nobody can hear his question.